Oh man, I'm going to do a quick video because I'm losing the light. This series is an education for incels. This is part 2 of that series. And in point of fact, this episode, Study Yourself, should have actually been the first episode. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, so you're going to get to watch all of them. And what do I mean by study yourself? See, if you're an incel, you have certain deficiencies. Not disorders, deficiencies. Deficiencies that are preventing you from achieving all of the goals you want, right? You're thinking perhaps of the whole man-woman thing, that your involuntary celibacy is preventing you from meeting girls, or let me rephrase that, the conditions that lead to involuntary celibacy are those conditions that prevent you from, successfully negotiating the man-woman thing, right? But see, these deficiencies go beyond simply getting a woman. If it were just that, it would be, frankly, not that big of a deal. But the qualities you need in order to land a woman are also qualities you need in order to have a successful life, in order to negotiate life among your fellow human beings, okay? Now, if you have certain deficiencies, or let me phrase that. You see, have you noticed how when you're outside, it's easy to spot the mistakes? You read a paper, for instance. A friend of yours wrote a paper, for school or whatever, and he asks you, here, why don't you read it and give me your opinion? And you read it and you spot instantly the problems, right? And the guy, he's smart enough to have seen those problems, but because he was writing the paper, because he was like in the middle of it, he couldn't see it. The whole couldn't see the forest for the trees kind of situation, right? Right. See, a lot of times your big problem is going to be that you are not looking at yourself from the outside in order to figure out the problems that you have, okay? You're not studying yourself. Now, this is a big thing, this ability to get outside of yourself and look at yourself, look at your performance in different situations, okay? In point of fact, you're going to notice that a lot of very successful athletes have this ability. They have this ability to sort of like almost step outside of themselves and look at their performance on the baseball field or the football field or wherever they're playing. They could almost like literally step outside of themselves and watch themselves play and adjust their performance so that they get better, right? It's a key skill that successful athletes have to have, that ability to look at their performance. See, you have to look at your performance in order to figure out what to improve. And often as not, when you step outside of yourself, you're going to be able to see where you're making your mistakes. See, just like when you read your friend's paper, because you didn't write it, because you're just reading it, you can spot the mistakes instantly. Whereas he, because he's writing it, because he's in the middle of it, he can't see those flaws. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so you have to step outside of yourself. You have to study yourself. How do you do this? Well, it's simplicity itself. We have the technology. It's just lying around. It's on your fucking cell phone. Yeah, a camera. Look, hang over here. I got one right here. This is a GoPro camera, okay? And there are cheaper ones that are easily available. This is just a couple $100 or $300, I think. You can find a GoPro camera, a cheap video camera, and you use it to study yourself. You have some interaction of some sort, and put it, like, say, in the corner of your room, and invite a friend over, and don't tell him that you're recording it, and just have a normal interaction, just as you normally would, and try to forget that you have the camera there. Just act as you would normally. And then later, replay the footage. See how you come across. How do you come across? Do you come across confidently? Do you come across like a spurg? Do you come across as what? How do you come across? And start noticing the things that you do and say, the expressions you have. And quickly you'll be able to figure out, oh, when I do that, I come across like not what I intended. Because a big problem I've noticed with involuntary celibates, comments that I've read in different boards and what have you, is that a lot of times internally they think they are projecting one version of themselves, but externally people see a vastly different person They see a vastly different image that is totally incongruent with what the incel thinks he is projecting, okay? Now this discrepancy causes enormous suffering for a lot of guys who have the best will. They're trying to be nice guys, but they come across as, quote, creepy, right? They come across as creepy because, like I've said before, perhaps for various reasons they were not properly socialized. Perhaps they just they didn't have the right role models. Perhaps the family life was a little bit iffy. But it doesn't matter, see? It doesn't matter. The causes of that dichotomy, that cleavage between what a guy thinks internally and what he's projecting externally, okay? It happens to everybody to a greater or lesser extent. A lot of times, for instance, in my own case, I think I'm coming across as straightforward, and people think that I'm coming across as arrogant. A lot of times I think I'm being just direct and to the point, and a lot of people think that I'm just the biggest asshole, right? It's a problem I've always had, and we all have it to a greater or lesser extent. But it seems to me that incels seem to have this problem in spades. This gap between what they think they're projecting and what they are actually projecting. Okay, so the easy way to fix this is to start, just record yourself, Stupid as that may sound, record yourself and study it, like athletes do. Athletes, they're in some game or whatever, and they later, the next day, they look at the film, as they say. They look at the film to see where they screwed up. They look at the film to improve their performance. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong at all. It's a simple technology that anybody can acquire and anybody can use. And what I do these videos, right? Do you think honestly that I don't look at myself and say, I shouldn't have done that or said that or acted that way or made that expression or whatever? You think I don't do that? You think I don't sometimes notice an expression or something I do and say, oh, that works. That's really effective. Ooh, when I do this, when I point at the camera, right? And I'm using the 50 mil lens, it comes across better. People think that I'm talking directly to them. Hi. But you see what I'm saying? See? There's nothing wrong with studying yourself. There's nothing wrong with looking at yourself from the outside to see how you can improve your performance. And to any kind of silly notion that you're, quote, cheating, that's just stupid, okay? What, an athlete studying film of his performance in the last game and realizes that, when he's, passing the football, he's, doing something wrong and then tries to improve that, he's cheating? How exactly is that? Of course he's not cheating. He's just improving his performance. And everybody, applauds him and congratulates him for performing better, for getting the trophy at the end of the championship game, right? Right. So why don't you do that? If you feel that you're not doing things correctly, that you're coming across wrong, why don't you try to fix it? Try to fix it from the outside, not from the inside. Ignore what you think you are projecting and look what you're actually projecting. Now, I've told you to look at footage from a camera, right? Take a camera, shoot yourself, and see what comes out, right? But do something else that might be a little bit more difficult. Go to somebody that you know, somebody you trust, somebody who is going to give you the straight dope, but is not going to try to shit on you, who's going to be, a friend. And ask him, how do I come across? When I was talking with Mary Sue, the other day, and you were there, how did I come across to her? Did I come across spurgy, or did I come across like this or that or the other? And be open to their response, no matter how negative. And that's the hard part here, okay? And this is the second point I want to land on in this video. See, looking at yourself from the outside, studying yourself, is very difficult. It's exceedingly difficult. Because you're going to be looking at yourself and you're going to realize the mistakes you're making, okay? And asking somebody you know, somebody you trust, to give you their honest opinion is going to be hard for you. Because they're going to say the negative things. And nobody wants to hear negative things. We all want to hear positive things. But see, hearing the negative is the only way to improve. The only way. Hearing the negatives, facing those negatives, and internalizing those negatives, because it's not enough to just stand still and listen to those negatives. You have to take those negatives and say, how do I fix this? How do I turn this negative into a positive? And it's very difficult. And nobody's saying otherwise. I certainly am not. You know, there are a lot of things about myself that are very negative, that are very bad, quite frankly, and I'm well aware of them. And I'll tell you, they are the hardest things to change. Improving a good quality to make it a little bit better, that's easy. But taking something negative that I do on a regular basis and not doing that anymore, or turning it around and making it good, that's so hard. It's so hard, but see, it's the most essential part. See? And you only are going to know the negatives by studying yourself, by looking at yourself from the outside. Your intentions might be pure as the driven snow, but it does not matter if the result, the external result, the result that other people are perceiving is negative. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how pure you are. In the end, all that matters is what other people perceive. That's a reality of life. And to think that it's superficial and that's this and that and the other and to shit on that, that's just not going to help. Okay? It's just not going to help. It's like somebody who's left-handed, and he writes with his left hand, and ink smudges because we write from left to right. And so a left-handed person is going to get all smudged, and he's going to say, "Oh, this stupid, writing style. How can it be the other way around?" Well, tough titty, said the kitty. That's life. That people perceived us by our exterior. That's life. People are not psychic. They cannot see inside your brain. They can only see what you are projecting. So you have to study what you are projecting to others. You have to study it, and you have to adjust it and improve it. Because remember, you do not have a disorder. You do not have a malady that can never be repaired. You have a defect. You have a defect, you find it hard to socialize, you have social anxiety disorder, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it is a defect. And thank God it is a defect. Because you cannot fix a disorder, but you can fix a defect. You can turn that defect around.